inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and here we are. We're finally done. Took way longer than I expected, but here we go. We skipped the Mark 6 and we're straight to the Mark 7, and I'm tired and exhausted at looking at this and printing so many backplates. I think we printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8 total, including some mock-ups, 9 including the final one, which is not the final one. So we're actually going to end up printing 10 of these things total. Let's talk about some of the things. First of all, this gloss is because I used a really cheap filament and it shows in this gloss. It's not bad, very durable, a little breaky. This is a Sunlu PETG for those 3D printing nerds out there. It's not bad. It's not bad stuff to print with either. But it's super glossy, as you can see. A lot of things have changed. If you saw my community post, we alluded to this bad boy. This was the Mark 6. It was actually a pretty freaking nice backplate. I've actually tested the Mark 6. It basically, this 7 is based off the 6, except you'll notice that there is a bump out on the bottom now where there is ventilation that allows air to pass through the bottom. This is actually not an air intake anymore. It's an air exhaust, and I'll explain it in a minute. The Mark 6 was great. It dropped down temps pretty dang low. In initial testings from between the stock backplate and the Mark 6 backplate, we saw degree temperature drops as low as 18 degrees Celsius. So it was pretty freaking cooler than the stock backplate, but we all knew that from my prior testing in the other versions of the backplate. The main issue with the Mark 6 and the overall temperature on our heat shield. And what temperature I'm talking about is the temperature kind of right where the SSD and the IC chip is. Both of them are down here. Temperatures were increased up to 12 degrees, which is all still within safe temperature readings. I think the total highest temperature off the aluminum heat shield was 69 degrees, and that was right over here near the SSD and IC chip. It's all rated for well over 100 degrees, but still, the cooler components run long term, the better overall your system will stay healthy. That's why that video never came out, because as I was editing that video, I was like, what if we just do a bump out there and fix the problem? And that led to the wormhole, all of this stuff right here, all of this. See this? There's more too, because there's a bunch of misprints. There was a couple mock-ups that was this one, kind of one of the first mock-ups. This thing slides into place, something like that. We had another piece. This was a multi-piece unit where the fan, I lost all the parts already, but the fan would slide in through here, but that didn't work out. That was still this model. And then we flipped from doing it this way, these models, and then we came up with this new one where it shows 7 right here. And this was all enclosed, so now that the fan and the heatsink sits inside of itself, and then you just close it on top, and then we got to this ribbed for her pleasure version right here. But now you can see the evolution of the Mark 7, and there was a lot of changes to it. Pretty much the same as the Mark 6 when it comes to the top here, except we changed it because now we have a piece that slides into place to kind of keep this thing rigid. The reason why this slides in places like that is to lock in these 2 top pieces, and there's supposed to be another bar here at the top, but I think I'm gonna have to axe that idea, only because you're seeing this waviness in the print. There's some inconsistencies when printing this backplate, and you can kind of see it in the other ribbing spots. There was supposed to be a triangle piece that slides on the top here, which would hold this two parts together, because as you can see, again, still a lot of flex there, but it's proving to be a problem. And I think in the final version, I might just X this whole joining piece in the top here, and then just drop these ribbings down so they're not as protruded. But I think this is a really good mock-up. Now let's talk about why the ribbings here. I was seeing a lot of some waves here in the prints when I was printing them, and I wanted it to be a little bit more durable, so less flex, like this, so less waves into it. So I put these ribs in place here so that when it's printing, it can be a little bit more sturdier as we go up into this higher point. And that was kind of one of the main issues, was we were getting a lot of stringing here in the top, and the ribbing actually helped it a lot. And I think it looks pretty cool with the ribbing. It looks kind of like the American flag right there. So if you look at it like that, it looks like the flag. I thought that was pretty badass. But yeah, so that's why it's ribbed. It's ribbed for rigidity, for printing, for overall just strength in the part. And then as we move out to the center here, you'll see that we still have that slide thing I was talking about, where this thing slides into place, and it slides into place and it finishes off flush to the top right here, which is pretty snazzy if you ask me. And then over here, we actually have the main cooling apparatus, and will be branded 7 because this is a 7th iteration. And we have the hexagons cut out punch outs here, and here, so we stay nice and consistent. And before we get into actual testing this thing, I'm not gonna lie, this thing is way better than it was before. Better than the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's better than cutting a hole in the back of your JSOX backplate. It is so much better. And the reason why it's so much better is because of the way the cooling apparatus is mounted to the Steam Deck. Direct contact to the heat shield is the way to go. Having this thermal pad, aluminum, and then cooling apparatus, the more of the sandwiches, the less efficient you are at transferring heat. So now we're right directly to the heat source. We can cool it off a lot quicker because of this. And the way it's set up is designed so that it displaces air in and around the Steam Deck as it sucks it in through the top here. But we'll talk about that once we pull this backplate off, because we're going to throw some thermal probes on here, and we'll see how well it cools in comparison to a stock backplate and the Mark 6. But before I take this off, I want to talk about fit and feel. So we made several changes to this thing so it would be a little bit more durable. Following us from the beginning, we had this weird clicking issue here in this corner as you press down. It was annoying me, and I finally was able to fix that, and I was able to fix that in 2 ways. The main thing is we had to beef up this corner right here, extend out the standoffs. So now we do not have a good seal, and that was part of the problem. So what was happening is this top edge here was overlapping the top just so slightly, you can barely see it, but enough to make a clicking noise because there's tabs here alongside this edge. So I had to beef up this corner for rigidity so it wouldn't overlap that little tab there anymore, so it wouldn't cause the clicking. So it's either seam or clicking, and I think the seam is better. It is not perfectly lined. So if you were to buy one of these backplates, you would not see a perfect seam. You would, as you see in the top here, we got some inconsistencies in the print. Not sure what happened there, but we do have inconsistencies in print, and you can see in the seams. It just is what it is. 3D printing is never perfect, and it's hard to print something so flimsy perfectly. Believe it or not, this one came out well, but this one on this right side was actually the second attempt. The final products are going to be less likely to have that inconsistency, but if you do get that inconsistency, then you understand that it's just part and par of 3D printing something like this. Bottom seam is pretty good. Still that same inconsistency with this part. Like I said, that this is probably more egregious than it probably would be in the final design, but so you're looking at something more like this. That's what you're looking at getting into picking up one of these back plates. It's gonna be, you're gonna see gaps there. This edge is gonna be a little bit on the sharp side, not sharp enough to hurt yourself, but you'll feel it. It's definitely, it's one or the other. Do you want that clickingness or do you want this edge? And I'm gonna pick this edge over that. This can probably be sanded down a little bit too, so it's a little bit smoother for those who have delicate hands. But other than that, let's pull this bad boy off. Let's get into the thermal testing. Here we go. This is the inside of the back plate. You'll see that the fan sits right in the middle there. It sits nice and firm in place. And what we do is we take this heatsink, this aluminum heatsink right here. When placing this heatsink, you want to make sure these gap openings right here, these fins, are pointed downward and not this way pointed downward, because there's a reason why that exists. It's all to help push air off this heat shield, this heat sink, and you want the air to travel down towards the bottom here. And that is helped by just the fact that these fins are pointing downward. And that's one of the biggest parts of this new backplate. You notice that this heat sink is not too much encumbered, and actually it's all in one place now, which is super nice, especially for installation. And that's also air travels downwards towards the IC and the SSD, and it keeps the whole system overall cooler, way cooler. And so that these bottom vents are actually more or less a exhaust, not intake. So exhaust, not intake. The one here on the top is clearly intake for this fan, because as you can see, we're getting some air, but probably not too much air. And plus, it's probably going to be very warm air coming off the heat shield. So it's more likely cool air is going to come in, entering through this opening here on the side. So now that there are two pieces right here that can be united, it makes the backplate a lot sturdier and less flex. That's exactly how this backplate is designed, and it all fits really well. So the cool thing about this fan, so you push your fan through, feed your USB. There's a little punch out there for the wire, just like so. Then you go ahead and firmly squeeze in your, I bent this one on accident. It will fit nice and firm. Do your best to get your wire over one of the slots in the fins, and you're going to get a nice, good, firm grip there, and it's not going to go anywhere. That's how it works. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put some thermal probes, kind of one right here and one down here. That's what we did in our prior test. Real quick, our stock temperatures were 37 and 52 down here with a room temperature of 21. It is warm up here, even though it's 6 a.m. in the morning, and it's actually getting hotter. It's 25 degrees up here right now. So we're gonna have to take that into account with our testing.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Before we get into the downloads, guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. And if you just fast forwarded all the way to this point, thank you also for just clicking on it, watching it. And so if you like this type of content, hit that like, hit that subscribe, comment below questions, comments, concerns. I respond to every comment, even the mean ones, but let's be nice out there, guys. But other than that, let's get into our numbers. So we got a graph here, fancy graph here. But before we get into these actual numbers, I want to talk about equalizing room temperature. Got it right. Equalizing room temperature. So our stock and our Mark 7 were almost 3 weeks apart from testing. And even on the Mark 6, which was the same day as the stock, room temperatures did change. We are at 21 at the stock temp for stock, at 23 at Mark 6, and then 25 at Mark 7. So it was a lot warmer in the room for the Mark 7 testing. So we equalized all the temperatures to 21, which was the room temperature and the stock. So all the numbers are going to reflect that. The game we are playing for all testing was Horizon Zero Dawn. So out of the gate, our stock temperatures are toasty. Our Steam Deck is currently overclocked to a 22 watt TDP, 4000 on the CPU, and 2200 on the GPU. All the fan speed for all this testing was pegged at 5400 RPMs, and it is toasty in the stock Steam Deck. There was actually ramped up to 7K because it was getting too hot. It overrided the fan controller and bumped up to 7K, and that's what happens when you run a Steam Deck this hot. We are 88 on the GPU, 91 on the CPU. VRM is at 37, which is in purple. CPU is blue, GPU is green. SSD IC is in pink. We are at 52 degrees centigrade. All well within safe temperatures. CPU and GPU is running hot though, very hot, very, very, very hot. I wouldn't want to run them that hot for a very long time. 90 is warm. It's not gonna kill your stack, but it's not the best thing for it. So with the Mark 6, where temperatures drop quite a bit, we have about an 18 degree delta, dropping to 70 and 75 on the CPU. But as you can see in purple and pink, the VRMs have increased quite a bit. An increase of 11 on the VRMs and a big increase of a whopping 21 degrees to a total of 56. And we increased 12 on our SSD IC chip area. Remember, we put this on the heat shield, not on the components themselves. I just can't guarantee the testing of on the components because the way I'd hear them are not the best. But we did get quite a bit warmer, 12 degrees warmer on the IC chip VRM area. All still within safe margins. But the reason why we skipped the Mark 6 and went to Mark 7 is because those numbers were not bad, definitely safe in my opinion, but we could do better. Let's do better. If we're going to make a backplate, let's make it the best backplate we can. Pursuit of excellence. So the excellence is the Mark 7. We pursued excellence and we got even better temperatures. All right. So now, which I was actually pretty surprised how we got slightly cooler APU temperatures. We have a 2 degree drop between the Mark 6 and Mark 7. I don't know why exactly that is. Maybe there's probably just more air volume inside the Steam Deck, so it just probably runs cooler overall because that big air pocket that we have going on here is holding in a lot more air. So that's probably the reason why it is slightly cooler than the Mark 6, even though they're essentially the same thing. But here's why the Mark 7 exists is if you look at our VRM and our SSD IC chip area, the purple and pink, we dropped quite a bit. We are currently at 53 and 49 degrees on our IC chip, which the crazy thing is we are now cooler than a stock Steam Deck IC SSD area. We're cooler by 3 degrees. So we're 3 degrees cooler, but we are still a little warmer in our VRM area. And I believe that could be cooler. The only main issue is the way the air moves in here. I think a lot of the air is like kind of just skipping over the VRM area. It's not really getting touching it as well as it is touching the IC and SSD area. But you know, it's a give and take thing. It's part of the design, but it's still better overall. We're well within safe temperatures in that area, so I'm not even batting an eye of it, because we are literally 22 degrees cooler than we are in stock from stock. It's kind of really ridiculous. So you can see the trade-offs here. Huge trade-offs. So GPU, CPU peaking high, we're hot, throttling territory. But you know, our IC and our VRMs are running pretty good. But with that over 20 degree drop into the Mark 7 backplate, we do slightly increase in our VRM area, but our IC chip, I don't know why that just got brighter. Our IC chip is cooler than it is in stock. It's all good news. So it's definitely way better than a stock backplate. Then we move into our Mark 7 with a 7,000 RPM fan. I just did this for shits and giggles. And real quick, dB on the Mark 6 and Mark 7 at 5,400 RPMs, roughly the same at 45 dB, right at arm's length, so about 2.5 feet, maybe about two, a little bit over 2 feet away from the head. The Mark 7 is about 50 dB, so it's 5 dB louder. It's 2 dB quieter than the JSOX fan. I think it's super loud. But it is louder than a stock, or just having your fan speed set to 5,400 RPM. So our IC chip and VRM is exactly the same, but we did get another 2 degree drop in temperature to 66 and 71 on the CPU. Definitely great territory. Like this, since this is an overclocked Steam Deck, you can see how important it is to get this cooling temperature. It's so important. And to add to that, the screen is overclocked to 70 hertz. I don't think during normal gameplay that plays too much in account, because but it's just if you have a Steam Deck, especially now, 6 months ago probably not that big of an issue, but now, in my opinion, if you're not overclocking it, why like, why aren't you overclocking? Even a slight overclock, so most people do like a 20 watt TDP hike up. I think that's safe, but I don't know, I go for the beans. So, but with all that said, all our numbers are great. All our temperatures are great. This is definitely by far the best. I know I say this every time I come out with one, because they're all progressively better. I spent 3 extra weeks for essentially a 2 degree drop, but in APU temperature. But it wasn't about the APU. It was all about the VRM and the SSD IC chip, which is now running a hell of a lot cooler. Feels safe. I felt pretty safe before with it peaking at 64 degrees on the IC SSD. But you know what? Pursuit of excellence. I could do a little bit better, so I made it incrementally a lot better, actually, because the IC and SSD is running a hell of a lot cooler than it did prior on a stock backplate. So that said, guys, let's get into the whole thing about this backplate. All right, so this backplate is going to be available right now. You can click in the comments below, or whatever, description. There you go, description below. You can go to DIYpoppy.net and go ahead and pre-order this. This is going to be a pre-order because there's going to be some changes to it. Some after my 4-hour testing, there are a couple things I want to fix. There's an issue with a throw with the rear buttons that's going to be fixed. It's the easy fix. It was actually perfect, and I ruined it because I wanted it to look a little bit better, and aesthetically it looks better, but functionally it doesn't work better. So we're going to go back to the original design that I had for it, which is not a big issue. The ribbing it will definitely get smaller, but I may get rid of it. The ribbing was only, so when I'm talking about ribbing, so this thing is now ribbed for her pleasure. Now it is a bit of a problem only because of not really a problem. I like how it looks, but it's only there for rigidity for print, so that might for sure change. But other than that, everything else is going to stay the same, relatively. Just understand what you're getting yourself into. So now that we know how good it works, let's talk about pricing. So prior to me making the Mark 7, there was going to be two packages. You could get just the backplate, and then you could get the add-on of the fans and the heatsink. But then after kind of looking in Amazon on, you know, things, I would definitely let people buy, you know, the ones I use, but I feel like if someone buys something that doesn't fit, then the backplate's useless. So what I mean to say is there's only going to be one available, meaning there's no add-ons. They're all going to come the same way. They're all going to have the backplate, and we're going to start off with black. So it's going to be black, as seen here. It's going to be not so glossy. We're switching the filament to a Polymaker brand, which is a lot more expensive. It's about 30% more expensive, but its print quality is better. Overall look, the matte finish is better than the glossy finish that we have with this one. Not a big fan of it, and I want to make the best product I can, especially if I'm asking for your hard-earned money. So talking about money, this thing will go on sale right now. You can go DIYpoppy.net and you can pre-order this. It will ship within 2 weeks for the low price of $34.99. Originally, I wanted to keep the backplate at $20, but costs have gone up. The more we added to this, the more the print time has almost doubled for this backplate from it was in stock. So we had to adjust for those numbers, or I did. And then we are adding the fan and the heatsink with the backplate. So you do not need to purchase your own, source your own. The only thing you will need, unless I can figure a way to get small packets of thermal paste, you will need thermal paste because the heatsink is attached to the heat shield with thermal paste. I will definitely see if I can source those out. If not, you will need your own. And I also highly recommend the thermal pad mod. Remember, this Steam Deck has a thermal pad mod put in there too, so that definitely helps with our temps. But $34.99. You get the backplate, you get a heatsink, you get a fan, and it already has a USB plug into it. So you figure out how you want to plug it in. Do you want to use a dongle? Do you want to just plug it into the wall wart? I actually plug mine into a wall wart because my Steam Deck's overclocked. I already have to stay plugged in essentially all the time. And I don't mind because I don't bring mine anywhere except my couch or my bed. So being plugged in doesn't bug me. But if for you, maybe I would definitely think about getting an external power bank or maybe some type of dongle situation so you can tie into USB-C, or getting an adapter USB to USB-C adapter so you can plug in straight to the Steam Deck. All depends on what your use case is. But that's what you get, $34.99. There is going to be shipping and tax involved, and I will do my best to make sure it's available overseas. I don't know what the cost is going to be shipping it overseas, but I will. You'll see. We'll find out. But $34.99. I feel very comfortable and free of charge, no upsell. I'm going to be giving away these docks. So this is a little dock I printed out. Don't know if it's going to be in this color. Probably going to be in black, just like the Steam Deck backplate. But it's designed, you know, we got the Poppy logo or the branding, but it's designed to fit onto the backplate. Sorry, just like that. So it sits, because now with this bump out, you're not going to be able to sit this on a normal dock. And if you like to keep it docked or sit on your desk or something, or on your bed stand like I do, you're going to need this, or you're laying it on its back. So we're going to give these away. I'm going to give these away free of charge. I don't know why I always say we, but I'm going to give these away free of charge to everyone that purchases the backplate. Doesn't matter when or where. Maybe we change it. I don't know. That's how it's going to be. That's just how it's going to be. You need this dock because you won't be able to post it. So with all that, you get a free dock, and that's it, guys. That's it. This thing works. Let me pull these numbers up one more time. Pull these numbers up. Oh, there's my NVIDIA broadcast. Great temps. We're talking over 20-degree delta. I think 24 from stock to the Mark 7 with a 7K. It is cool. Your system is going to be running super cool, especially when it's overclocked. I'm pretty happy about this, guys. I'm very happy, and I'm happy I got to share this with you guys. This was a journey. It was a journey, but it was a journey well spent. Now I have a very cool running Steam Deck, and the numbers don't lie. It is nice, and it's awesome, and it feels good in hand. And we have rear buttons. We did everything that I said we were going to do when we started this campaign about like 2.5 months ago, and we did it. Now the question is JSOX going to copy us? Because they're probably going to. It works. I have this is okay. So we have the ones we're fighting against is that big copper plate, the aluminum plate that you can get. It's like $100 aluminum plate. That's our contender, and we got that $80 little, basically exactly what we have. That $80 add-on. It's $80 for this little fan. It's called the Noop or something like that, which I actually really like. I just didn't like the pricing very much. And so the two things we're competing, those are the two like DIY things we're competing with, and we beat them. We're half the price. Sometimes we're 3x less, and I guarantee our cooling performance is, I wouldn't say 3 times better, but definitely better than any of those two products. I guarantee those better than those two products. The JSOX backplate, we are more expensive than the JSOX backplate, but you know, they don't have a fan, they don't have the heat sink, and overall, I'm actually thinking I'm gonna order that new JSOX backplate so I can do some thermal probe testing on there. I'm thinking what's gonna happen is on that JSOX backplate, you are going to see your temperatures increase on your VRM's IC chips, because I saw them increase with my mod. Even with the still with or without that vent hole in the bottom, they're going to increase because it's all about air resistance. The Steam Deck runs on negative pressure, so air is not getting pulled into that bottom slot anymore. So if you don't have external cooling on that area, it's going to get hot and toasty. And that's the reason why the Mark 7 is the Mark 7 right now. This is the reason why it looks like this. We have this big bump out in the bottom here so that we can allow that IC chip and SSD to stay cooler. And you can see in our freaking graph one more time before I end this, you can see in our graph that the IC SSD chip area is a lot cooler. That's in black in this one. I think it's 52, 3 degrees cooler with Mark 7 backplate with versus a stock backplate on the IC and SSD. So we are actually cooler than stock now. VRM's a little toastier though, but still within safe margins. So guys, if you do have that backplate, I'm going to tell you right now, if you have that backplate, you better have an external cooler. I'm just saying, you better have, because I guarantee those things are running hotter. Are they hot to the point that they're going to break? I don't know. I doubt it, but you know, they are running hotter. So because you've circumvented the air. I wonder if they're getting as much backlash as I'm getting, that I got when I cut a hole. Probably. And as you can see, the audio cut out. So here we are now editing Poppy here. And just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Backplate is amazing. It's going ahead right there. Check out the dock. Scoot over here. Looking good. Stand. Bada bing, bada boom. Remember, each order gets one of these docks, because you will not be able to dock it anymore because of the backplate. So, you know, can help you guys out. $34.99. Get it at www.diypoppy.net. Thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you on the next one.